Hi, have you ever been told by your doctor that it doesn't make a difference what your child, or specifically your child with autism, eats, and that so long as they're eating, that's the most important thing? Well, most of the parents that I work with have been told that. And so I've decided to make this video quickly just to show you that it actually really does make a difference what your child eats. That'll make a big difference to their ability to focus and concentrate, their sleep patterns, and also meltdowns, emotional outbursts, anger, and irritability. There's a direct link to food. And so I thought if I share with you some of the lab results that I've got, that will help to explain this and make it clearer, because I really wonder why doctors are telling people this. I actually think that the information that doctors are giving out is harmful and detrimental to the progress of anybody with autism. So let's get straight to it. If I show you something called a metabolic test, that's what I use to measure whether or not people have the right nutrients in their system for everything to be working properly. So the first clarification I need to make is that doctors will look at symptoms and then they'll try and suppress the symptoms. It's like playing whack-a-mole, really. You get rid of one symptom and then another one pops up, so you whack that with another tablet. As a functional medicine practitioner, I work very differently from that. And I look at body systems to see how they're all interacting with each other. So your digestive system, your metabolic system, your immune system, all of that sort of thing. Because a lot of the symptoms that you experience may appear to be unrelated, but in reality, they could all link to the same system. So here's an example of a child who has autism, and I did a non-invasive test. So this is just from a urine sample to see whether that child has the right nutrients for all the body systems, including learning and development, sleep, communication. Have those systems got the nutrients that they need? So let's just call up this document here. And what you can see is part of a metabolic test. So at the top, it says glutathione, and that's in the red zone. Well, putting it really simply, glutathione is kind of like your body's bin man. There's not enough of it. The body's not being cleared out. So when I look at this, even this part of one of the tests, I can see that this person is not detoxifying properly, which tells me immediately that if they catch a virus or a bug, or they're around anybody who's got it, they're probably going to catch it too. So this could well be somebody who gets ill regularly. I would also expect this person to have very weakened immunity and not to be able to think clearly. You know how when you just feel toxic, you get kind of brain fog? Well, that's what I would expect from this profile. So already we've got somebody who's got a lot of systemic inflammation as the body tries to fight that off. They may well have a lot of mucus production, a lot of phlegm, a lot of snot, undigested food. The next thing down, I see plant-based antioxidants is also in the red zone. Well, antioxidants, again, are the body's bin men. And so if you're not clearing out the detritus from your system, so we're talking here not just about a digestive cleanse. Everybody knows that you can get diarrhea or you can get constipation and your digestive system isn't clearing properly. But antioxidants have a role beyond that, where it's really important that they clear out cellular waste, because every cell in your body, almost every cell in your body, uses oxygen. And oxygen, as we know, rusts things. It rusts iron, or if you bite into an apple, the oxygen in the air makes the apple turn brown and dry out a bit. Well, all of that is called oxidative stress. The same thing happens to the cells in our body. And so we need antioxidants to combat that. So here I can see somebody who is not getting enough antioxidants. particularly plant-based. So they're not eating enough fruit and vegetables to clear out their system. They're not eating a rainbow or even 5 a day, I would say. They've got lots of inflammation going on because the toxins are building up, and their body's got no reserves to flush it out. So that is already an absolute blueprint for any health aspect to be worsened. Then we look at the next section, which is B vitamins. And each of these B vitamins plays a different role. But overall, B vitamins are vitally important for energy and energy regulation, and critically for certain neurotransmitters. And when I'm looking at somebody with autism, what I want to look at is vitamin B9, which is folate, second from the bottom, and B12 as well. And B6 is also important. So again, on this profile that I got back, the B9 and B12 are in the red zone. So this person is not getting enough B9, regardless of how they get it, whether it's supplements or whether it's from fish and vegetables and healthy whole foods. They're not getting it. Now, those particular 3 B vitamins that I mentioned are closely associated with making neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are something that's in the body that is responsible for governing your mood, your behavior, your ability to sleep, and your ability to focus and concentrate and learn. So immediately I see there are not enough of these B vitamins. So I know, without even looking at the rest of the report, that this person is going to have issues with anger, irritability, overwhelm, stress, frustration, and quite likely with issues relating to cognitive ability, so the ability to focus and learn. So if I can tell that much about how somebody's daily behavior is likely to be, just from the lack of these nutrients in this one part of this metabolic test, then that begs the question, surely you can just give this person B vitamins and everything will be okay. So it's true that a lot of doctors give injections of vitamin B12 to children with autism, and for many of them, it can really help. But the challenge with that is they have to be able to metabolize it, which means you get the B12 or B9, whatever it may be, but you've got to be able to break it down, absorb it, and digest it and get it to wherever it's needed. And that's true whatever format you have it in. So whether you have it as a supplement or whether you have it as food, you have to be able to break down that food and get it to where it's needed. And that's where a lot of issues arise, because some people will recommend and say, oh yeah, B12 really improved my child's autism. And then somebody else will try it and say, yeah, it didn't make the slightest bit of difference. And so that's where a gut function test comes in, because we look at, in gut function, we do a 3-day stool sample. And that gives us an indication about whether there is too much inflammation going on. So remember I said we looked at the metabolic test and we could see that the body was not detoxifying properly. Now we look at the gut function test to see what's actually happening to all of those products. Is it causing opportunistic bacteria to grow in the gut? Is it causing the gut lining to get so inflamed and so swollen up that even if you eat great food, you can't actually get it through using osmosis? It can't get through the barrier to where it's needed. And that can lead to something called leaky gut syndrome, where foods get through to somewhere where they're not supposed to be because there's kind of gaps in the gut, a bit like a sieve that lets things through when it shouldn't. Or it can lead to SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And that's really just opportunistic bacteria that grow in the gut, a bit like a fermentation bin, where everything gurgles and bubbles. And, you know, the person's probably got lots of wind, discomfort, maybe constipation, or maybe diarrhea, or maybe even alternating between the two. And so that's when we realize that until we can clear out the toxins in the gut and reduce the inflammation, we're not really going to get the results from the supplements that we want to add. And that's why I always begin with a detoxification plan first, and then we can look at what we need to add into the body. But that just gives you a very quick overview about why I think food matters in symptoms of autism. And I really wonder why doctors wouldn't tell people that. Why do they say that it's okay if, so long as your child is eating, if all your child will eat is a beige diet? Because actually, potatoes, if they like potatoes, for example, the starch in potatoes breaks down to glucose, which then gives you a sugar spike. And then a few minutes later, that sinks. And so if you have these peaks and troughs in sugar levels in your body, you're likely to get more opportunistic bacteria in the gut that can cross the gut-brain barrier. You're likely to have weight issues, either be too heavy or too light. You're likely to have massive mood swings. And so, sugar highs, everybody knows about children having sugar highs, but then when you crash the other side of that, it's really problematic. So the mood isn't constant. And so that's why I think a beige diet could be problematic anyway. If you then add to that ultra processed foods, even the ones that appear to be healthy have something in it called MSG, monosodium glutamate, because that makes food look more colorful, it makes the flavor stronger, and it's highly, highly addictive. But unfortunately, glutamate is also something produced by the body, and we really don't want to start adding artificial glutamate, monosodium glutamate, into the diet, because that's, I suppose, a separate video, but it is very, very harmful and can have particularly detrimental effects on anybody. I was going to say people with autism because of their sensitivities, but really and truly, it will make anybody's symptoms worse. It's just not a healthy thing to be eating under any circumstances. So yes, your doctor will tell you that so long as your child is eating, it doesn't make a difference. But I've got the evidence here in the lab tests that shows it does make a difference. And food can either be your medicine or it can be your worst poison. And I'll make a few videos to give examples of that and how symptoms are made worse by eating the wrong things, and how symptoms are not improved in ways that they could be if you were able to introduce the right things. So I hope that has given you a good indication, here we are again, of how we can look at just this one part of a metabolic test. And even without me speaking to this child's mother, I could tell her what her child's symptoms are. So I hope that that has been helpful for you. I hope it's been interesting. And I would love to hear your comments below about what your doctor or any healthcare practitioner has told you about what your child should or shouldn't eat and whether or not food makes a difference. I'm also interested to hear from people who say that their child is a picky eater, because that's a huge, huge concern for parents of children with autism. And I think generally for parents overall. So I'd be happy, if you're interested, to make a video about that, about solutions that have worked with families that I've worked with, and also about how to pick your battles when it comes to dealing with picky eaters. So thanks for your time, and I hope this has been helpful for you.